back to Well Life Wednesday. I'm your host, Christy, licensed clinical mental health counselor supervisor, and today we're walking into a topic that lives in every home, every heart, and every memory: grief. Not just grief as a feeling, but grief as a whole body experience: the mind, the heart, and the nervous system, the way we show up in the world. Today's episode is called Grief, the Brain, and Mental Health, because grief isn't just for sadness, it's science, survival, and eventually healing.
And I'm your host, Iris, the licensed clinical addiction specialist. We are honored to welcome a powerful duo, Dr. Keyne Johnson-Nowlin and Malcolm Nolan, the host of Life with Keyne and Malcolm and founders of the Malcolm Isaiah Nolan Legacy Foundation. Together, they mix medical expertise, real life relationship with wisdom, and live the experience with loss in a way that brings both education and empathy. Grief touches so many of our lives, our bodies, and our relationships. So let's explore it with care and courage today.
Welcome, Dr. Nolan and Malcolm.
Thank you. It's so good to be with you.
We are so excited to have you guys
Yes.
today on Well Life
Excited.
Wednesday. So let's start with something simple and real. What is grief beyond sadness? So many people think grief is only about crying or feeling down, but grief is a full body earthquake, and sometimes the aftershock lasts longer than the world expects them to. So, Dr. Keena, from a brain science view, what actually happens in our brain when we grieve?
Great question. First of all, thank you so much for having us. Thank you for this topic, which is so important, and addressing this topic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel like I'm on the Jennifer Hudson show. That intro, I felt like when she does the dance and we're out and we're I'm like, well, this is okay. Back to your question. Okay. So, what happens in our brain? Well, what grief stimulates in our brain? It stimulates our emotional areas of our brain. It stimulates our memory areas, our areas that are responsible for reward. So when you talk about, and I mean, I can get into specific areas, but one of the areas that we talk about is called our amygdala. And that is what amplifies the feeling of sadness, anxiety, fear. And so this area becomes hyperactive. Another area of our brain that becomes underactive is our prefrontal cortex, and that allows us to regulate our emotions and to also process things, and are able to think clearly and decision making. And it also interacts with another area called our hippocampus, and this is our memory area. And so when you have hypoactivity of this area during your grieving process, you can get things such as brain fog. You can get lack of memory, over
Mhm.
what we call, some people are like, oh, you're over emotional. That's where the
Yeah.
sadness, you're crying too much, and you're not able to concentrate. You're not able to focus. You're not able to reason and rationalize things that normally we would say, why can't you figure that out? Why can't you, snap out of it, come to yourself? And then it affects areas that release our hormones, such as cortisol. So it affects something called our HPA axis, our hypothalamic pituitary axis. And so now you have this overproduction of something called cortisol. And cortisol, I mean, we hear these commercials, cortisol adds on belly fat, and cortisol, all these different things, but it also causes stress. And this is released during periods of stress. And it also affects our sleep. So now we're not sleeping well, we have insomnia, and so there's another, cascade of events. And so when you don't sleep well, right, then we release even more cortisol, and even more things start to happen that does affect our health. Another area that's activated is something called our anterior cingulate gyrus. I know I'm throwing a lot of words here at you, but that's an area of the brain that will have increased activity during a grieving process. Well, this area is actually kind of overlaps with our pain area. And so when someone is grieving, they can actually feel physical pain because this area, this anterior cingulate gyrus, is activated and overlapping with our pain center, and so they can
Mhm.
physically have pain. And when I was talking about the hypothalamic pituitary axis, when we release cortisol, the other thing that can happen is we can have overinflammation, and this also causes cardiovascular risk. And so you
Okay.
literally have a broken heart, what we call broken heart syndrome. And so when people are like, oh, my heart is hurting, or you may have even heard of people who have actually died from a
Yeah.
broken heart. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know if you ever have watched The Color Purple. It's one of my favorite movies, but I do remember when all of the things were going on when they were in Africa, that scene when they were in Africa, and it was a lot of turmoil going on, and the mother actually died, and they said she died from a broken heart. Well, that can really happen because if she was grieving that much and was that stressed out, it was causing inflammation of her heart. She was actually, her heart was actually dying, so to speak. And she was having cardiovascular issues. So it really does happen. And the more we know, the more we can address it, the more we can come up with solutions. And so I'm excited to talk about, yes, it does this, but there are solutions.
Listen, Dr. Keeney, you really just connected the dots there. I never put those 2 together, but to how you broke it down, it just painted a picture for me of how that works. That was beautiful. Malcolm, were you about to say something?
I was I know that this is my wife and I hear her all the time. And I was like, wow, this is so good. So good.
Right. Dr. Tina, how can understanding the science help show ourselves more compassion? Because how you just broke that down, I had more empathy of understanding grief a little bit more
Mhm.
and how that ties. I know one instance in our family, our grandmother died and got sick on my father's side. She got sick and died. And then my grandfather, maybe a couple of weeks later, he ended up in the hospital, but thankfully he was able to come out of it. But they had been together for so many years. And I think that connection, like you said, I never thought about it like that. But how does understanding the science help us have more compassion?
Absolutely. I think one of the things, we always say, why are you grieving so long? Why can't you just get over it? And now we understand, well, we don't have control. It's our brains. It's literally, like you said, it's biology, it's science. Grief isn't what we consider an illness as other illnesses. It's a biological, psychological process. And so when you understand really what is happening in someone's brain, what's going on in someone's brain, it's not seen as taboo and, oh, something's wrong with them. No, these are chemicals we have no control of releasing. We can't say dopamine stop and it stops. It doesn't work that way. Again, there are things that we can do to help and combat those processes. But if you don't know and you don't know how to do that, then you do unfortunately stay in that place until you get the help, until you can figure out how to get out of it or come out of it. So absolutely having compassion when you with understanding. I think that's with everything. You lack
Right.
Mhm.
compassion because we lack understanding.
Very
Right.
true.
And clinically, we talk about stages of grief, cultural grief traditions, and also complicated grief.
Mhm.
when someone feels stuck, overwhelmed for a long time. There's no right way to grieve, and there's no stopwatch on it.
That's
So
right.
grief moves like the weather. It's not a calendar.
I like that.
Exactly. I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's
it
right.
moves like the wind calendar. Malcolm,
Yeah.
thank you for willing to share your story.
So good to be with you both.
When grief first showed up in your life in a deep way, what surprised you most about how your mind and body reacted?
Whew, so it's been so much, so much. But I'll start with when my late wife Wanda, when she died. She died at home, and our three of our four children were in the home with us, and she had a cardiac arrest unexpectedly. There were no signs at all. These There's no signs that I could see at that particular time that she was having a cardiac arrest. As a matter of fact, that day when she was experiencing chest pain, she was experiencing back pain.
Mhm.
But some of the things that she was experiencing that day, I noticed before.
Okay.
And during those times, she was coughing. She had a cold, and so I thought she has a cold. I'm going to go
Right.
to
Mhm.
Whole Foods and get some honey and help her with this cold. And and but she looked at me, and when she was going through the pain, the chest pains and the back pain, she looked me in my eyes and she said, "I am not having a heart attack." Who says that? So I'm like, okay, we're good. You're not having a heart attack. And so, but then she was, and called 911 immediately, and they tried to help me to revive her. CPR, chest compressions. I felt completely and totally adequate because I thought I was hurting my wife by pressing on her. So I was pressing too
Okay.
hard. I didn't know what I was doing as far as breathing. It was just crazy. And then one night after she passes away, um, one night I was crying out to God, and I was crying out to God. I thought the children were asleep, and I was crying out to God, and I said, God, I can't do this on my own.
Mm.
I've never been a single parent. I can't do this on my. I mean, I was crying out, and I had no idea that the kids were listening. And the next day, they comforted me. So
Yeah.
that was one of that was I would say my first stage of grief.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
Okay.
then my friend of mine, his mother passes away, and I'm helping him. I'm helping him. I'm helping him with the service. As a matter of fact, I expedite his service shortly after Wanda dies. So I'm figuring
Okay.
I'm okay because I've given all this to the Lord, and He's helping me, and I know I'm going to be okay. But then after that service, I remember calling my wife because I was in the car. I was bawling. I was exhausted. I was hurting, and then I realized you're doing too much. You're
Yes. Right.
doing too much. And my wife was like, you need to, I don't remember her exact words, but I know she was telling me, you need to chill out, But I was thinking, but I'm used to helping everybody else.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
used to giving. I'm used
That
to
part.
people calling on me and saying, hey, could you expedite this service? Can you MC
Mhm.
for me? So, hey, I'm just going to do what I normally do. But afterwards, I was exhausted. And then fast forward, I found love again, and I found love again. And because God heard my cry I didn't when I was crying out saying, Lord, I can't do this on my own. I wasn't asking for a wife. I was just like, Lord, I can't do this on my own. I didn't put no time frame on it, but
Right.
I didn't know that He had
Right.
Kina right there
Mhm.
waiting
Mhm.
for me. And so then 19 months later, after Wanda passes away, then Malcolm Isaiah, our oldest son,
Mhm.
Mhm.
while working as a security guard, was fatally shot. We did. He was doing his job. He's in the right
Right.
place at the right time, doing his
Mhm.
job, and some guy shoots him. So I get the call, we get the call a little after 4 o'clock in the morning. And then we my wife gets me a flight. I rush to Pittsburgh. And long story short, Malcolm lived for 6 days in the hospital. He lived actually, yeah, for 7 days. For 7 days. And but each day we're fighting for his life. And
Right.
that process in and of itself is difficult because you're
Okay.
watching your loved one. We were watching our loved one, expecting him to live. And
Right.
outwardly, Malcolm was healing and his
Okay.
heart was beating strong. And so, but every day, waking up in the morning, fighting, fighting, fighting. And then in between that, CORE, a donor organization, is talking to us, is in our ear, like,
Mhm.
we would like you to consider donating your child's organ. And then doctors, right? Because they didn't believe what we believed.
Right.
They weren't expecting what we were expecting. So I heard them, but I didn't hear them. And so, but on that seventh day, when my wife and I, we went into the operating room. We went into the operating room, and they were removing the ventilator. Now
Mhm.
we were believing that his heart would beat on his own, and that his breathing would not stop.
Mhm.
But his heart stopped beating, and he stopped breathing. And at that moment, I was okay because I was like, we did everything we could. But my wife, not Malcolm Isaiah's biological mother,
Mhm.
but when she became my wife, she said, you know what? These are my children.
Right.
She
Right.
took Malcolm, Talisa, Michaela, and Jonathan as her own. And so my wife, we left the operating room, we went to another room. My wife is having symptoms of a biological mother. Her
Okay.
heart was beating, her blood pressure spiked. And so I was like, okay, there goes my grieving. All my attention is on my wife. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was no grief for me. All my attention is on my wife. And now after I console my wife, then I think, oh my God, we have a room full of people waiting in the waiting room,
Right.
all expecting us to come. And nobody's expecting to hear anything different, but Malcolm is alive.
Right.
So now I've got done consoling my wife. She's in a place where she can move from the place we were in. We go upstairs, and now every step, what am I going to say to these people? What am I going to say? And so I get in the room. We get in the room. I get in the room, and I start explaining to people that our faith is not in vain. Malcolm is going to be with the Lord, but our faith is not in vain. We have fought. We have fought. So I wasn't able to grieve even in that moment, because even after that, my wife, the next thing I know, we're calling the doctors for my wife because her heart, like I said, her heart rate is out of whack. Her blood pressure
Okay.
is spiked. Now the doctors is helping my wife out. So I'm like, here goes my grieving. I'm got to help my wife. I have to help, and which I take great pleasure in. Great pleasure in to be able to be there for my wife and the people in the room. And I forgot to mention that all over the world, people were watching this live. And they didn't see my wife, the doctors, but they saw it live. Me in the room saying our faith is not in vain, and that
Okay.
Malcolm has
Okay.
transitioned to be with the Lord. So I'm still helping other people.
Mhm.
Then fast forward after Malcolm's homegoing service. One day I'm in the bed and I'm crying. I'm crying. Grief hits me because I worked. And then in the middle of the night, grief hits me. I'm crying uncontrollably, sobbing. My wife is next to me, knocked out, sleeping deeply. And I wasn't even trying to hide it or save her
Okay.
from her sleep.
Right.
She was just in a deep sleep. I'm crying uncontrollably. And then next thing my wife does for me, she lays her hand on me. She didn't have a clue the next morning what she did, but it changed my life forever. And I
Mhm.
don't exaggerate that. because I felt so loved in that moment. I felt like God was loving me, and I felt
Mhm.
like my wife was loving me. Grief came at an unexpected time, but I wasn't alone.
That's right. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
You really just broke down your experience emotionally and mentally, the hardest parts of that, and how you even said not being able to take the time in that moment and experience your grief
Mhm.
because you're so used and accustomed to being there for everyone else.
Yes.
Just when you needed it in that moment,
Yes.
that singular night,
Mhm.
it came and hit you so hard.
Yes.
God protected you and gave you peace even in that.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I don't think any of us ever know when it's going to hit,
Yeah.
Right.
when things come up.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times where we get, where it goes left is when we don't take the time to, um, process it, understand it, sit in it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like you said, you weren't even trying to hide it,
That's
Right.
good.
but kids go to sleep, right?
Yeah.
And so even in that time, not feeling alone, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of times people feel so alone
Yeah.
in that dark place and don't know how to come out. So
Mhm.
a question I have for you is, in those moments, um even the mental and the emotional aspect of it and your daily how you try to go on even when your first wife passed and then your friend,
Mother.
mother, and then your son.
Yeah.
What in those moments and those times, how are people's responses to your grief helpful or unhelpful?
Yeah, that's good. First of all, I want to just say briefly, or just touch on that again, what you just said, because it was so powerful. People don't sit in those moments.
That's so true.
I knew I had to sit in that moment. I knew I couldn't leave. I couldn't rush from that moment. Although I didn't really want to go through all that at that time when I was crying uncontrollably, my wife sleeping next to me, I knew I had to stay in that moment
Yeah.
Mhm.
so that I could live the next day, and the next day, and the next day, truly live, truly be free. Because I knew if I held back then, it's going to happen again. It's
Right.
going to
Mhm.
happen again. And so, yeah, we need to sit in those moments. So, how did relationships help me, or not help me? That's the question, right?
Yes.
Well, my wife helped me tremendously. Every area of my life helped me, there for me, stood with me, prayed with me, listened to me, provide comfort to me, make sure I stayed, you know, stayed on a narrow path, keeping me straight.
Right.
So we talked and we shared, and she let me be free. And then I had other friends too, comforting, calling, checking up, but she was the one with me at all times, late in the midnight hour. But the people who did not help were the ones who thought, oh, you've moved on too soon.
Okay.
How could you find love again?
Mhm.
Mhm.
You were with Wanda all the time. You said you love her and we saw it. How could you move on too soon? So soon. When Malcolm died, it's his fault. He wasn't there in Pittsburgh. He wasn't there. He's in Florida. But what they didn't know is we begged him to come. We
Okay.
begged Malcolm to come. But God,
Mhm.
I tuned all those folks out. And sometimes it was difficult to tune them out. But for the most part, I learned how to tune them out and to move forward. Because if she wasn't there, at the time she was there, I couldn't have made it on my own.
Right.
She literally helped save my life. No doubt about it.
I so often I say, Christy, people don't know what to say during those times.
That's true. No, I don't.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm one
Yeah.
of them, and I know sometimes just being present, like dealing with family and some of my friends, I know I don't know what to say, but I
Mhm.
know me being there, even afterwards, they said just being there was enough for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So some of when people don't know what to say, it's okay to be quiet.
That's
Yes.
that's good. That's so good.
Absolutely.
Really, it is
It's
okay.
very helpful
Yes.
because when you get in self and flesh and think you know what you're doing,
Right.
you can do more damage than good.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the best thing to do is just sit there and watch and observe
Right.
and
Mhm.
be present because at some point he will lead and guide you
There
on
you
what to
go.
do.
Yeah.
I know that that is not my forte. It actually makes me uncomfortable
Yeah.
Mhm.
because I'm so Malcolm like you. I want to fix it. I want to be there. I want to be able to support the best way I can because you don't like to see your loved ones and friends hurting.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I have to learn. It's a lesson for me. It's not even about me, but learn how to sit in my own uncomfortability to be able to understand someone else's pain and
Yeah.
Right.
grief.
Right.
Because then there's a lesson in that.
Mhm.
Because when it's my turn, then I have more compassion and I understand that better.
That's
Right.
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah.
And if I could just add something just on those lines, a lot of times people will say, I didn't reach out because I didn't know what to say, or I didn't reach out. But, for the person who's grieving, like you said, you don't have to say anything. Sometimes just sending a message to say, I'm thinking about you,
Right.
or I
Yes.
love you, I am holding you up in prayer can go so far. And now this day of technology, you can text them. You don't even if you're uncomfortable speaking it, you can text
Mhm.
them or you can send them a voice memo
Yeah.
that they can hear your voice, but you're not having to have a conversation. And I understand too when people, especially when they first lose someone, just knowing where they are and I don't want to interrupt. I know you're getting stuff together or getting yourself together, and I don't want to interrupt you. So yes, send that text, send them a card, write them a letter, and sometimes the letter, and what I found even in my profession, I'm a pediatric neurosurgeon, and so there have been times when I have lost patients or, the parents have lost a child. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I found that really helps them is letting them know how that child affected my life in a positive way.
Okay.
And they love hearing those stories. I recall like, oh, when they came into the office, they just always caused me to feel so loved and like I really cared when they asked me, how are you, Dr. Johnson? Or how are you doing? Despite how they were feeling, they cared about me. And that just made me feel so good and brightened my day. And a lot of times, even if it's not a child, if it's an older mother or father, how that mother or father may have impacted your life in a positive way. And they love those stories because as we talked about, it triggers another part of their brain that releases the good hormones and makes them feel good and makes those memories not the memories where they're yearning and longing, but memories that's stored in the hippocampus of good remembrance and
Yeah.
positive remembrance and makes them smile. And we'll talk a little bit about what laughter does, but again, releasing the good hormones. And so,
Mhm.
um, yeah, there's always something you can say in your way, but say something because
Yeah.
when you've gone through something like that and then someone didn't reach out who you felt should have, and we've experienced that, it makes you feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
Like, what did I really mean to them? And that may not be your heart. That may not have been
Right.
Mhm.
your heart. It just may be like, well, I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. But to the grieving person, it's gosh, I have no one.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm
Right.
Yeah.
lonely.
Yeah.
I can't believe they turned their back on me. Now it
Mhm.
adds to the grief and it adds to those negative areas and the negative hormones. So,
Yeah. That's true.
And just listen to every the statement that everybody has made. It reminded me that everybody deals with grief differently.
Fact.
mhm.
Yeah.
It doesn't look the same for everyone. Some people may cry, some people may shut down, some may even stay busy, some get quiet, and for that's human for anybody.
That's
I mean,
natural
that's
response.
natural.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Many people don't realize that grief and trauma can overlap,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially in the brain.
that's good.
I look at the timeline sometimes when I'm on social media platforms, and you have people who have lost loved ones, and it's been, let's say, years and decades,
Mhm.
and you see those posts come up about, I miss
Mhm.
such and such, and um, I find myself wondering what stage are they in, like what are the steps they're taking to get through this. So, Dr. Keena, why do some people feel stuck while others, um, in their grief, are able to move more fluidly?
That's good. So a lot of what we talked about, how someone's basically life is structured. So we
Mhm.
find that those who have the support have a larger kind of support pool. Those who have a more of a spiritual practice that
Mhm.
will affect, because again, prayer, those areas, the prefrontal cortex area that I was talking about, that's hypoactive during prayer, and meditation time becomes hyperactive. And so you are able to release those good hormones, those who, or neuroendorphins, those who also have more of a practice like doing other things like exercise and um, um, altruism, so helping other people,
Right.
as my husband alluded to, that actually does help you get through grief when you help other people. A practice of gratitude, that helps you to get through grief. Now, there are there are other things biologically that will allow someone to, um, I won't say move on because that means you're forgetting, but move forward a little bit faster than someone else. And
Okay.
that's looking at those areas of the brain. Some people are just born with hyperactive amygdalas, or they're
Mhm.
born with hypoactive prefrontal cortex, just like when we talk about patients who have depression or patients who are bipolar. They release, too much serotonin or not enough serotonin, causing them to have depression or causing them to have manic episodes. And that's just how they were made. It's not that
Mhm.
they're, it's not in what I say an abnormality. It's just something that is different. And
Okay.
so all our brains are different. And um, so if you're, and again, as you talked about before, it would also depend on how much, if you've experienced previous trauma or
Right.
previous grief. Um, and so all of these things will allow someone to not be able to move forward as fast as someone else.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so understanding that, now we can really have compassion for
Mhm.
someone who may have lost someone years ago. And we're like, okay, you got to move forward, time to move forward. Now we can
Right.
understand, oh, I see, there was other traumatic things. So now
Yeah.
the brain is really having to work overtime, and there's something
Mhm.
called neuroplasticity, where you are having to form these new connections. But
Okay.
Mhm.
if you're starting here, some like at another way back, and having to kind of catch up to where someone
Okay.
might be their baseline, you're not even at someone else's baseline, then it's going to take you longer to get
Mhm.
Yeah,
there.
That helped me.
he really just got know that was
That helped me tremendously.
she broke it down well.
And I feel, Christy, clinically, we often use grounding work, mindfulness, CBT, nervous system tools to help people deal with their brain
Yes,
safely to process grief. Tiny steps of counting, even breathing with attention counts.
that's true.
That's
So
right.
I'm seeing
Mhm.
how both professions are kind of tapping into the same
Same
thing.
thing.
So that's beautiful to know that we're on the same page in support. Malcolm,
Yeah.
what are some things that you were able to tap into during your periods of grief to help you over some of those struggles?
Some of the things that helped me was the Word of God, staying in the Word, eating the Word, praying, being honest with myself,
Yes.
not trying to act like a superhero, not trying
Right.
to be more than what I was or am,
Mm-hmm.
allowing myself to feel what I feel, being honest with my wife with where I am, with our
Okay.
children as well. I was very transparent with them. I didn't. I wanted to model well for them how to
Mm-hmm.
grieve in a healthy way.
That's good.
So I would share with the kids, hey, this is what I'm going through as well. This is what I'm feeling. I would let them know I'm feeling. You're feeling this or feeling that. So I was very real, very honest. But I didn't want to overwhelm them as well. Wanted to be mindful of that because they are in their grieving process as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I made sure that I was grieving in a healthy way, talking about it, praying, listening, and also being in a place where I would be quiet so God can minister to me, so that He can love on me, and give me
Right.
what I need as well.
That's good.
You exercise.
And so,
Oh, I did. She said I exercise. Yes,
Oh,
exercise.
oh,
that's
Exercise. I love exercising. So my wife and I, she really got me straight. We would wake up early in the morning, 4:30 in the morning,
whew,
and we would pray together. Well, first we would read together. We would pray together. Then we would
mhm,
go. What's this enough? Then we would go to the gym. Then we would go to the gym. We would work out, and that was very therapeutic.
good.
mhm,
And also helping others, I found that to be so therapeutic. Whether I was
Okay.
called to in the marketplace to talk
mhm,
to help organizations understand their why, and a lot of these places are secular arenas, so we're not talking about God, but my light is still shining. My
Yes,
light
mhm.
is still
Yeah.
exactly.
shining in the marketplace. So there's times I was talking about helping people to understand the why. Um, I was sitting on panels where I was talking about mental health, and sitting on panels where I was helping young doctors come up, and sitting on another panel where I'm helping CEOs. But it's all therapeutic. It wasn't just work. It was my
Mhm.
calling. It was my
Yeah,
purpose. So that was walking in my purpose. I found that to be very therapeutic.
And laughing.
And laughing. My wife actually, you all, this woman right here, she prescribed me laughter.
That's
okay,
it.
that's good.
No, no, no. She didn't tell me. She wrote it out like a prescription
Oh,
On a
for real, for
prescription
real.
pad.
on this prescription pad, and prescribed me laughter. And we've been laughing ever since. And
Yep.
that's a great
That's,
point, babe, because we make each other laugh every day. I mean,
Okay.
in one way or another. And I'm talking about belly laughs. We just crack up at each other and crack. We don't take ourselves so seriously.
That's good.
We have a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and we really love being with each other.
Hmm.
We enjoy each other. And two, we've learned how to not place our children in the middle of us, but we've learned how
Yes.
to place our children on the outside of us. So our children are looking on the inside, watching our model, but they're not in the middle separating us. And so all that's been therapeutic. We've learned how to be a model for our children, bring them alongside of us, but not let
Yes.
them take control, but model how to love, how to grieve, how to
mhm,
live, and
Yes.
that's been therapeutic in itself. That's a lot.
mhm.
It's a lot of work.
It's like kids.
Oh, there's a lot of kids, but it's a great work. It's a great work. It's a lot of kids. Ooh, Jesus.
Both of you really just shared with the audience how, as a married couple,
Mhm.
you can support each other with grief in the grieving process, and also the importance of making sure individually you are managing your grief. You see a lot, especially on TV, you see a lot of movies um, and situations of parents losing young kids, and how a lot of times the marriages don't last. But I think both of you shared your experience of how to not only support each other, but also take the time individually to manage that.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, Malcolm, how you talked about modeling that for the kids. So now
Yes.
it's spilling over into the family
Yes.
so that everybody's grieving process is healthy.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy and support systems matter here. You don't have to carry grief alone. Sometimes we need safe places to talk and safe people to breathe
Oh,
with.
I like
And
that.
I think
That's
that's what
good.
we've been talking about this
Mm-hmm.
whole time here.
Absolutely.
So, can we talk about like coping tools and mental health care?
Mhm.
For someone grieving right now, what can they do to take care of their brain health, Dr. Keyne?
So, one of the things I always say is movement is medicine. And, you know, when we move, when we exercise, I know my husband was saying I was making an exercise, but when we move, when we exercise, it does. So, those hormones that I was talking about being released, not only do those hormones heal the brain, but they heal the body. And so, you don't have the overproduction of cortisol. And so that means that now the overproduction of cortisol, our blood pressure can go up, our heart rate can go up. As my husband had mentioned, when we initially lost Malcolm Isaiah, that's exactly what happened to me. That was my response. And so when we talk about people will hear fight or flight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so during grief, during trauma, our body is under fight or flight. And so we're releasing everything that's causing our heart rate to go up, causing our blood pressure to go up. Well, what happens? Your body gets exhausted. Your body feels fatigued. You feel fatigued. You feel exhausted. You're not sleeping well, which adds on to the exhaustion, adds on to the fatigue. And so you're so when we exercise, when we do these things, it allows us to sleep better. It allows our
Mm-hmm.
blood pressure to go down. It allows our heart rate to go down and be normal. And so now you're sleeping better, you're eating better. What are some other things that actually have a good benefit on the brain? As we said, prayer. So when people are, are saying, "Oh, I don't believe in prayer," or "That doesn't work," we have
Mhm.
scientific proof, and we have looked at the brain. We've looked at something called a functional MRI, which actually
Okay.
shows what area of the brain is being stimulated during the time that someone is praying. And that is that prefrontal cortex, is one of the areas. And so it does have benefits
Mhm.
Wow.
to prayer. The other thing, like we talked about, helping other people, altruism, that actually also stimulates those areas of the brain that are going to help you to heal and to recover.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, laughter. Laughter releases dopamine. Dopamine is our happy hormone, and that makes our body feel happy. When people talk about not being able to sleep, one of the things that I tell them, watch something funny before you go to bed. So watch something funny. Make sure you're exercising. Watch something funny before you go to bed, and that will definitely help. The other thing that we've noticed that will also stimulate good areas of the brain is gratitude. So,
Okay.
one of the things we also do in the morning, we'll pray, but I also write down every day, a whole in my gratitude journal, a whole list of things that I am grateful for, and that again will cause areas of your brain to light up that again counteract those areas of grief and trauma.
Okay.
And so when we talk about what can help your brain, all these things that I've mentioned, putting them into practice, and that's
Okay.
what
Yes.
it is. It's practice. It's not, you're not going to want to do it. No one wants to
Mhm.
exercise. no one wants
Right.
to, no one wants to eat the bland foods and eat right. That's not fun. but
Right.
that's why it's a practice. And even with praying, some people, when you're in that grief state, you're like, I just don't want to pray. I don't want to read the word. I don't want to. And you don't. Your brain is saying, no, no, no. But it's something that you understand. Okay, I have to do this. I have to do this. And that's where having other people around you again is going to help. And even if you can't read, just to begin to think of things that you're grateful for, just beginning to think of even something funny, even something,
Right.
just begin. It's like, but it is a push, and for some people, as we talked about before, it's going to be a harder push,
Yes.
more of a push. Some people, it'll come easy, like
Mhm.
I'm used to doing this, and so it's something that I've practiced so much, and that's what our brains do. So that's where neuroplasticity comes in, what we call neuroplasticity. So one area of the brain that's not functioning well, now we're able to make new connections in another area to
Okay.
overcompensate that. And so, like for instance, someone who's had a stroke, we put them through physical therapy, right? We
Mhm.
start working that muscle. So now we're stimulating another area of the brain to make up for that area that had lacked the oxygen and the
Okay.
area of the stroke. So likewise, if there's that area of grief, if that there's that area um, where you're, again, the amygdala that's not functioning right, prefrontal cortex isn't functioning right. Now we're creating new connections so that they will overcompensate and override those areas that are not acting right.
Okay.
But again, it takes repetition, it takes practice to where it just becomes second nature almost.
Yes.
That's beautiful. It just reminds me faith without works is dead,
There
right?
it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Yes.
When you having times of darkness and difficulty,
Yes.
it's hard sometimes to lean into that. And what
Mm-hmm.
I've heard you say, Dr. Keene, is that there has to be action with it.
Right.
Mhm.
Sitting there not doing anything is not going to make anything better or
That's right.
easier.
That's
Mhm.
right.
And so thank you for sharing that. Malcolm, what encouragement would you share with someone who feels like grief will never get easier?
First, don't keep saying in your heart, in your mind, that it won't get easier.
Okay.
You have to change your mindset,
That's
Right.
true.
change the way you think. You have to begin to, as my wife said, and as I shared, you want to you want to do things that transform your mind. So
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
again, reading the Word of God, praying, um, also opening up yourself to others, um,
Good.
Mm-hmm.
sharing love, receiving love.
Mhm.
Don't stop living. Um, don't allow the grief and what's happening to you to be your only focus.
Right.
Yes.
Don't focus on what you've lost. Focus on what you're gaining.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, so I gained Kina. I gained more children, and
Mhm.
so that's what I focus on. I shifted my mindset. The more you focus on, it won't get easier. It won't
Right.
get any better. It won't change. Then guess what? It won't get easier.
Right.
It won't change. It's not. And really, you might say, well, that's real simple. It is that simple. It
Mm-hmm.
first starts with your mindset. It's you change, like my wife said, practice. You change your activities, change your habits, change your surroundings, and also you might have to change the people you run with.
There it
Come
Come
is.
on.
on.
That's it, sir.
There
That's
we
the
go.
main thing. The main thing, the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Thank you
I
for
wish I had a
sharing.
mic. I would drop it.
Thank you guys. grief doesn't mean you're broken. I think we really need to stress that. It means you're loved and your brain is working hard to figure out life in a new shape.
Right.
Mhm.
And healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means going around what hurts and learning to breathe again,
Mhm.
one sunrise at a time.
Mhm.
Most definitely. Well, we want to um, really thank you, Dr. Keena, Nolan, and Malcolm for sharing your
Yes.
wisdom and heart with us today. We would like to leave you with your closing statements and to give a shout out to your social media platforms.
All right. Go ahead, baby.
Okay. I was looking through that. So, um, again, I thank you guys for being here. And the biggest thing to remember is, grief is a process, and
Yes.
it doesn't mean when you may not have periods where it may hit you again or hit you all of a sudden. But I think what's so important to know is how do you get through it, and you will get through it, and you can get through it, but it is a process. And to know that yes, the brain is involved, and the brain plays a big part in the grieving process and in the healing process. But there is healing, and so yes, I leave you with that. I am a pediatric neurosurgeon. You can find me at the Brain and Spine Institute for Children. I have my own private practice, and I am a doctor, a woman of God, full of
Yes,
compassion, and I just love seeing people be loved on. And I
Yes.
yes,
love to love on people.
That's beautiful.
Yes, you do.
And I encourage you to stop beating yourself up because you're still here and they're not.
yes. Ooh, that's good.
Stop beating yourself up. You're here for a reason.
Yeah.
You still have breath in your body. You're still here. Choose life.
Yes,
You're still here and you feel guilty about it, but let that guilt go. Because what it's doing is robbing you of your life, and it's also robbing the person who's attached to you
yeah.
life, your life.
Hmm.
So live. You can find me at malcolmenolan.com. We have Life with Keena and Malcolm on our YouTube channels. We co-founded Malcolm Isaiah Nolan Legacy Foundation. We also
Yes,
co-founded Isaiah's Light, the Encounter. And that
Wow.
encounter is a sacred place where people can, a sacred place, a sacred space for people to be healed, transformed, in their mind, in their hearts, in their bodies. And the foundation we created so that we can help people just like you, people that are
good.
grieving and mental struggles, but also help students as well, helping them with scholarships so they can stay in school or go to school. So we've done these things, we've created these things so that we can help someone else move forward. We're on a lot of different platforms. You can find us. It won't be hard. So feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you guys. To our listeners, take care of yourselves and each other. Don't forget to follow, like, share. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify. You can check our website out, h3consulting.com. Thank you guys. This was beautiful. We
Yes.
really hope that people, especially now that the holiday season is coming up,
Yeah.
and I know it's hard when you've experienced loss to want to find happiness through this time.
Yes.
But we hope, and that's why we wanted to do this episode, that you're able to take something away from this and to be able to enjoy your holiday season. You got anything, sis?
Y'all said it perfectly.
That's great.
Well, see you next Well Life Wednesday. Thank you guys for coming. Have a good night.
Good
Wonderful.
night.
Good night. Good night.